All right, so I always like to start these sessions anytime I'm teaching, anytime I'm speaking. I love to start by giving you all a really good introduction to who I am because I think that it helps put things into perspective as far as where I'm coming from based on what I've been through, what I've accomplished, what I'm currently working on, and what part of my purpose is to help you all do. So I am Coriel. I am an author, a two-time author. I've wrote two books. I released two books within 12 months. I am a serial entrepreneur. If it's legal, I have probably done it. And I am an educator. I was able to turn my $32,000 teaching salary into a six-figure brand, and I was only able to do it by getting my entire life together personally and professionally. And so part of my purpose is to help other women level up personally and professionally by discovering their purpose, prioritizing their lives, and then figuring out how to get paid from the things that they are passionate about. And so I have a ton of things going on, like way too many for me to name, but a few of the things that I have that I definitely want to let you all know about. Of course, my Confessions of a Workaholic podcast, where I release new episodes weekly, sharing the untold success secrets of fearless female entrepreneurs who are obsessed with success. Work, Pray, Slay Weekend, which is a 3-day empowerment conference that is coming back to Atlanta this fall. And then, of course, I have a mentoring group for goal-getting women who want to figure out how to bring those goals to life. And that's called the Inner Circle. And aside from that, in all of the things that I do, I have a dream team that helps me get it done. And so in 2015, when I decided, okay, it's time to stop procrastinating, it's time for me to really put my money where my mouth is and release this book, because I had been working on it. I had been sitting on the content, but I had just been making a bunch of excuses and procrastinating. And so when I decided I was finally going to start taking myself seriously, I was finally ready to share a little bit more of my story, and I was finally going to release this book, there was nobody else that I trusted, nobody else that I thought would be able to help me pull it off with the crazy deadline that I had, other than my right-hand man, Lakia Brandenburg, affectionately known as LB. Now, I can say a million and one amazing, sweet things about LB, but I definitely am going to turn it over to her for a moment so she can introduce herself. So, LB, take it away.
Hey there, KD. Thank you so much for the introduction. Hi, everybody. I am so excited about tonight. Let me just say this. I, too, am a former educator, but like Coriel, I took a leap of faith. I stepped out on faith after publishing my very first book, He's Not Perfect, I'm Not Perfect, but together we're picture perfect. And I started my very own publishing company. I had no idea as an independent publisher that I would be able to write not one, but two books, and then start using that as a vehicle to help other authors make their dreams come true as well. I'm also a publishing consultant underneath my publishing company, a book coach and editor. And it's amazing because, and we're going to be talking about this tonight, so many other things have come out of me simply writing my very first book. I had no idea that as a classroom teacher, I was replacing that 9 to 5, or really not a 9 to 5. If you're a classroom teacher, you understand. I replaced that with my company, and been able to do those things to help people share their stories, and me actually being a witness as what the power of writing a book can do for you. So I'm super excited about tonight. Can't wait to share and educate you all on how to get your book done too.
And the thing that I think is so great about LB and I coming together is that both of us are former educators. So we truly have a passion for not just teaching, but also learning. And so we're constantly looking for ways that we can improve ourselves and invest in ourselves so that we can bring you all more value. And then we both have two different teaching styles, as well as two different sets of experiences and two different expertises. Is that the right way to say it?
Sure.
I don't know if that's a word. We're going to make it one tonight. But LB's expertise is definitely in the editing, in the publishing, in the entire publishing process, whereas I'm a marketing genius, right? So no matter what your topic is, no matter what type of book you want to write and publish, I can definitely help you in getting it off the shelf, because our goal is to help you actually profit after you publish. And so before we get into this thing, definitely make sure you follow our page on Instagram, Publish and Profit. Publish and Profit. LB and I have some amazing things that we are working on to bring you in 2018. So definitely make sure you follow there so you can stay up to date and connected with all of the fabulous things we have for our aspiring authors, our new authors, and our frustrated authors.
Yes.
Whether you can relate to this or not, a lot of people have written books, but not everybody is selling books. And I said this the other day on Instagram Live. It's two different things to say you want to write a book. It's something totally different to say I want to sell a book. Because a lot of people are, writing books for the wrong reasons and then wondering why it seems like they wasted their time. And so our entire purpose in doing this is to really share some practical tips, tricks, and tools that will not only help you finish your book and lessen your stress throughout the process, but that will also help you to get paid after you publish. All right. And so tonight we are talking about how to actually finish your book, because your book, believe it or not, is not going to write itself. There's LB and I. We cute, y'all. I think this was what, New York. This was the very first stop on my book tour, the Work 101 book tour in 2016. LB and I set out on a 7-city tour, and this is where we kicked it off in New York City. And so when LB says the passport, your book is the passport to the life that you want to live, or the life of your dreams, she is not lying. Okay, there are so many amazing, beautiful, God-given opportunities and experiences and blessings that are tied to your book and just tied to you stepping out on faith and sharing your story. And so I have been blessed with 1,000,001 opportunities. LB, I know you can speak on all of the things that you have been blessed with, all of the opportunities you've been booked for based on these books that we have written. And so there's 1,000,000 reasons why you need to write a book. LB's going to get into that in just a second. But aside from that, tonight we're going to cover the basics of book writing, how to finish your book fast so that you're not wasting a lot of time, the publishing process, the design process. So LB is going to give you all an overview of those, how to set realistic expectations so that you are actually creating your own definition of success, and then how to actually profit once you publish.
All right. So we're going to get right into it, ladies. I know it's not on the slide, but I think it's very important. And we often do this, Coriel, especially with Work, Pray, Slay, is to set an intention for tonight. We talked about some of the things that we're going to cover, but I want you to really think about the intention you're setting. Wayne Dyer said, our intention creates our reality. So really think about what it is you signed up for this webinar to receive. Because tonight we're going to be sharing with you a lot of information, but this information is going to help you to ultimately get your book done. What I want to share with you is why right now? Like, why is it the time for you to start writing your book, stop procrastinating, and to get it done? Because I know I come in contact with a lot of people who said they have been wanting to write a book, or I'm going to write a book, or one day I'll write a book. And when I look on the calendar, one day isn't on there. So we're going to show you why you need to write now. I'm going to also provide you with writing tips, specific things that you can start doing tonight to start structuring your book, getting the foundation in order so that you could actually get those ideas to flow on paper or on your laptop. And then Coriel is going to, of course, touch on some marketing basics a little later on in the webinar. So all the reasons why. Now, when you think of why, you may be thinking of why I want to write the book. And I am talking about that a little bit, but I'm ultimately talking about all of the reasons why the book is going to benefit you. When I thought about the moment that I was ready to write my very first book, my reasons why are not going to be what I'm going to share with you tonight. It's actually what came later on as I realized the power that is in simply sharing your knowledge, putting it in book form, and getting it out there in the public. All the reasons why starts with you really thinking about how is this going to help propel me as a business person. One thing I often tell my clients is that writing a book is a creative act. Selling a book is a business. So you really have to get in to this whole, I guess, idea of book writing, understanding that it's more than just saying I want to write my story or I want to share my story. There's so much more, or so many other reasons why. And I want to share with you all just a few of those reasons. The next slide, Corey. Go back. I'm sorry. There we go. Expert on the topic. So some people are going to book you because you have been deemed an expert on your topic. I've been watching, I don't know if you all are fans of the talk show Sister Circle on TV One, and I've noticed that they have been bringing back some of the same experts because they have not only written a book that has gotten them in the door, but they have been deemed a trusted voice on that topic. Sonia Booker is a financial guru who has been brought back several times because she has been deemed an expert. So this is one of the reasons why you can be actually, given the opportunity to speak on TV, speak on radio, because you have been an expert on the topic. Another reason why is because it creates doors of opportunities. And I'm going to share with you all a little later what the analogy I use with books. But Oprah said, if you create a vision for your life, the doors will open. And I say, if you create a vision for your book, the doors will open. So you're going to be able to create massive opportunities because you have simply written a book. It's a path to self-discovery. I often say that writing a book is cathartic because what happens is a lot of people want to share very personable stories, things that have happened to them, whether it was molestation, sexual harassment, maybe they grew up in foster care. I've had clients who've dealt with homosexuality and being able to come out and live a free life. And so understanding that writing this down, this could be your healing. Some people are pretty much holding their healing or putting their healing on hold because they haven't actually sat down to get their book done. So it's important to know that this is one of the reasons why you may need to go ahead and write your story. I know Coriel always talks about additional streams of income, how additional streams of income is not a luxury, but it's a necessity. And so understanding that writing a book, which again, these are things I didn't know at first, this will be an additional stream of income for you because it is ultimately a business. And then it's a long-lived legacy. How many of you all will be able to reach millions and millions of people in the world by simply being a voice alone? It won't happen. But guess what? After you're dead and gone, your book will live on. And so that's the beauty in having an actual book. Your book will continue to live on and bless people for years and years to come. One of my favorite books, of course, is 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. And he wrote that, to my understanding, back in the 80s. Now, no, that's not the oldest book in the world, but just to know the impact that his book is having today is important to understand the impact that your book can also have once you write it. So these are all the reasons, and there's so many other reasons why, but these are just some of the reasons why you need to write your book. So your book is the passport to the life you want to live. Coriel showed you all at the beginning the overview of everything that we're going to teach tonight. There was a picture of she and I at her very first stop on her New York stop of her Work 101 book tour. And it's important for you all to understand something. Like I said, just writing a book is not just telling a story or solving a problem or something like that. I need you to understand that as soon as you write this book, you're going to gain access. I want you to see your book as a passport because you're gaining access to things that you never imagined. Most of me being on this webinar tonight is because I wrote my book back in 2010. Me being able to coach clients, me being the wife coach, me being on TV, radio, doing different interviews, being able to go on tour with Corey. This was because I wrote a book, and that book became the passport. It was the book that got me in the door that when nothing else could. I couldn't just call up and say, hey, I want to be on Atlanta Live. I couldn't do that. But I had a book that allowed me to open that door. So understanding that your book is the passport to the life you want to live should get you excited. Should get you really dreaming about the platform that your author, being an author, is going to afford you. Really think about how you're going to gain access to areas, international areas, things that you never imagined simply because you wrote a book. So the very first, actually this is tip 2, but the first tip, it didn't come up, but that's okay. The first tip is for you to define your why. So I want you all to understand that I'm going to share with you all a few tips, and I'm going to actually share 4 that are going to help you to get your book done. The first thing you want to do is define your why. Now, I shared with you all several examples of why, or all the reasons why you could write your book. But when you define your why, I need you to understand that in everything you do, you must have a purpose. I used to tell that to my students all the time in the classroom. I taught an all boys class for 3 years. And I used to always tell them, in everything you do, you must have a purpose. So when you think about writing your book, what is your purpose? What purpose will your book serve for you? Okay? Think about who your book is going to affect. Who is it going to benefit? Who is it for? How is this book going to position you? If you feel like, you know what, LB, I want to be deemed a trusted voice on the topic of, relationships or spirituality and meditation, then you need to define that why. When I wanted to share Picture Perfect and why I felt that me telling you that, you can have a picture perfect story too. Why did I deem that important? Because you know why? I read an article in the AJC that stated that marriages were becoming obsolete. So you trying to tell me that people don't want to get married anymore? Well, why? I'm sitting in a successful marriage, not perfect. I'm sitting in a successful marriage right now. I've been through, a year of premarital education and learned how to put my marriage together the way my husband and I wanted it. That's my why. I need to help women understand that you can have a happy marriage and it doesn't have to be perfect and you can still be happy in it. I had to help people understand that 55% of marriages end in divorce within the first 3 to 5 years. That's my why. See, I wanted to help others outside of myself. If I can do it, you can do it too. And so you have to understand that this why is so important. It weighs so much. You know why? Because when you feel like you want to quit, you need to remember your why. When you experience writer's block, and I promise you writer's block is when your little friend, your little imaginary friend just stops talking to you, because they're going to stop talking to you and you're going to claim you have writer's block, and you're going to look up and 6 months have passed, a year has passed, and you're still claiming you have writer's block. I need you to go back to your why. Go back to your why when you need purpose, when you need inspiration, when you need to be motivated and get excited about this thing again. Coriel mentioned being frustrated with maybe your book. Maybe you're already a published author, but you're just not happy about the way you went about it the first time. You need a redo. You need a reset button, right? So you need to really go back to that why and redefine why you started in the first place. So understand that why weighs so much more than just, I want to write this book because I want to tell my story. That's not good enough. I had a client who was 72 years old at the time. She wanted to write a memoir about her story, her life story. And she didn't want to sell her book. She said, I don't want this book in stores. I'm writing this book as an artifact. I'm writing this book as a historical message for my family. I want my family to understand what I went through when I was growing up in the 40s. I want them to understand what segregation looked like from my perspective. I wanted them to know, what I dealt with on the streets of Baltimore. See, that was her why. Her reason was her family. So it wasn't about making money. It wasn't about, being a bestseller. It wasn't about any of those things. So remember your why, because you're going to need it, especially on this journey of writing your book. Because remember, your book isn't going to write itself. Okay. So your second tip, after you have defined your why, you're very clear on why this book needs to be done now. Why right now, right? You're next going to create an outline. Now, I'm taking you through what I consider an old school step, because I feel like the old fashioned way of writing a book still works. And organization, structure, it works in whatever it is you're going to do in life. Think about it. Anything you have to do, you got to be organized. So if you can organize your thoughts, if you can organize your book and your concepts and the ideas, then guess what? That's going to make that writing process flow a lot easier. When you think about your outline, I want you to look at it as a GPS. It's going to guide you successfully through writing your book. So when you create an outline, think back to old school where you had the Roman numerals, right? I want you to create 10 topics that you must cover in this book. Whatever it is that you think that you're going to write about. Let's say you want to write about, of course, how to be a boss. A lot of people are writing about that. How to be a boss. Okay. So what are you going to share in that book? Maybe you want to talk about, the 9 to 5 or the day-to-day duties of being a boss. Some of the ups and downs of being a boss. Maybe it's how to quit your job to become a boss. All of these different topics you want to make sure that you are outlining, because these are ultimately going to be your chapter. These are going to be your chapters. Do they have to be written in consecutive order? Absolutely not. Your chapter 1 may be your chapter 10 at the end of the day. When I started writing Picture Perfect, my very first chapter was not what the chapter you're actually reading. It was, I think I started on chapter 4 because I actually wrote where I was inspired. Okay, so really think about how these topics are going to create the structure for your book. Brainstorm on at least 10. And I think a book with 10 chapters, you must agree, is a pretty good amount of chapters. If you have more, that's fine, but at least start with 10. Okay, so that's the second tip. You want to create an outline that's going to help you walk through or navigate through writing your book. So make sure that you guys come up with at least 10 topics that you're going to cover. My third tip, and again, this is all leaning back to the foundation of the book. I remember when I was writing Picture Perfect, I visited a bookstore. I think it was Barnes & Noble. And I went to the section where my book would be. I'm sure many of you all have done this before, or I encourage you to do that because that's part of creating a vision for your book so those doors will open. And I saw my book on the bookshelf. Okay, so this was back in 2010. Went and I started reading, flipping over the back of books and started reading the back sales copy. And I was like, wow, these books are powerful. I want to buy this book. I was seeing, words like transform your life or eliminate debt or be happy and enhance your marriage. And all of these different words were drawing me into actually wanting to purchase these books. So I'm thinking, if you are going to write a book, right? Why not write the back sales copy, a compelling back sales copy that's going to help capture that attention of potential readers? Why not write that before you start writing? See, what it also acts as is sort of like a summary. Just like you have that outline that's going to show all of the chapters that you're going to include in your book, you want to write this back sales copy because it's going to act as a summary of what you say this book is about. See, if you're telling me this is why I have to read this book, when I open up the pages, that's exactly what I'm expecting. So you want to go, I really encourage you to do this. You can go on your laptop, of course, go online to Barnes & Noble, but I want you to flip over. You know how they have that feature where you can flip over the book. And I want you to read these back sales copies. And I want you to look at the words that draw you in. They're normally vivid verbs. They're adverbs. They help you create images. They evoke strong emotions about the book. Those are words you want to include in your back sales copy. Because it takes about 8 seconds, and I may be generous here, but it's about 8 seconds before somebody decides whether or not they're going to purchase your book or not. The first thing they do is look at the what? The cover. If they don't capture you right there, if you don't capture them right there in that cover, they're not going to then flip it over to the back sales copy. Now, within that back sales copy, many people skim. So they're looking for buzzwords. So you want to make sure that those buzzwords are in the verbiage that you're using in that back sales copy so that you'll draw them in. The next step, they open up the book. So there's 3 steps. I really want y'all to try this. I want y'all to test me on this. When you see somebody looking at a book, the first thing they do is look at the cover. They then flip it over and then they open it up. You probably have followed that those same steps as well. But make sure that you're grabbing them. Okay, you want to make sure that you're drawing them in. And if you read a book that just so happens the back of a book and it doesn't draw you in, find out why. What is it missing? If it's not engaging, then what is missing from that book? What makes you not want to buy it so that you can use that as a teaching tool to not do the same thing? All right. So the third tip for you is to write your back sales copy. Make sure it's compelling. And the final step, after you have created your structure for your book, so you've defined why you need to write it, you've targeted your audience, who you are writing to. that individual you're writing to. I was writing to that young lady who was, wanted to get married, who, was excited about getting married, but was a little nervous about getting married because she wasn't sure if it was going to last because her mama and daddy's marriage didn't last. I was talking to her. So you want to make sure that now that you have the structure, the outline written, you have identified the topics, you've written your back sales copy of what your book is going to do, right? You are ready to now start writing. The name of this webinar is Your Book Isn't Going to Write Itself. You don't find time to write, you make time, okay? It's like, I don't have time. You got to make time to write. So what you're going to do is schedule time to really focus on writing your book. And I say you can dedicate at least an hour a day. And when I say an hour a day, it doesn't mean consecutive. You don't have to sit down from 5 to 6 to write. You can literally write for 20 minutes here, write for 20 minutes, before you go to work, write for 20 minutes during lunch, write for 20 minutes after work. And we're already at 60 minutes. So if you break it down like that, it won't seem as intimidating. It won't seem like you're climbing this steep hill, okay? But what I really encourage you to do as you start writing, when you look at those topics, if you say, I'm going to write about being a boss, and the first thing is the day-to-day operations of being a boss, and you feel inspired to start there, then start writing right there. And that might be topic number 4. It may not be topic number 1. You don't have to write in order. Okay. That's what you have an editor for. And we're going to talk about that as well. That's what you have an editor for. So you want to start where you feel most inspired. So you know what? I would start writing the day-to-day operations of a businesswoman because I'm living it. I know exactly what I have to do when I get up. I understand how I have to be structured and organized in order to get through and be successful, to be productive and not busy. So I would start there, really looking at my life, telling my story. This is what a day-to-day, life in LB looks like when it comes to being a businesswoman. Okay. So write where you feel inspired. I also encourage you to look at those topics and maybe even assign each week. Like, this week I'm going to focus on, the day-to-day of being a boss. But next week, I want to focus on how to quit your 9 to 5. So maybe even scheduling it that way so you can give yourself something to look forward to. You can start letting your ideas grow and then letting them flow on paper. Okay. So start writing no matter what. No matter what, you have to start writing. There's a quote that says, start writing no matter what, because the water doesn't flow until the faucet is turned on. So even if you feel like you're stuck and you don't know where to start, just start somewhere and get those ideas on paper. So these are 4 tips that have helped me to not only, write Picture Perfect, but to get it done. Okay, I knew that my book wasn't going to write itself. So in order for me to do that, these are the steps, the specific steps that I followed in order to get my book done and start getting those ideas on paper. So hopefully you have found this part helpful as far as getting the information out of your brain and on paper.
So LB, before I jump into my part and start talking about actually marketing the book and selling the book once you actually publish, can you talk a little bit about setting realistic expectations in terms of the timeline for publishing as well as the investment for publishing?
Absolutely. I think that's very important. Setting realistic expectations. One thing I will never tell you to do, or one thing I will never do, is to crush your dreams. I will never do that. But I will tell you one thing. One of the most valuable pieces of advice that my husband has given me on this dream journey is that it takes 15 years to be an overnight success story. Now, what does this mean as far as relaying to your book? I need y'all to understand that when you publish your book, 9.9 times out of 10, you are not going to be a bestseller. Now, if that crushed your feelings, I need you to go back to your why. I need you to go back to why you're doing this, because it shouldn't just be to get a title. Best-selling is not going to pay your bills. I need you to understand that. I need you to understand that being able to publish your book is something that a lot of people are doing, but they get real unrealistic when it comes to sales. And Coriel's going to talk to you about how to market your book and ultimately increase your sales. But do know that the first couple of sales you're going to get are going to be from your loved ones. They're going to be from friends. But when it comes to being successful on Amazon, where there are a gazillion books, right? What's going to make yours stand out? You got to understand that you have to have a plan. The first thing I told you was that writing a book is a creative act. Selling a book is a business. So you are definitely switching hats when it comes to selling your book and being realistic. Be realistic knowing that your book can be done in 30 days. Now, will it be done right? I'm not sure. Your book can be done in 60 days. Coriel is one of those rare situations where she came to me and she had her book done in, I'll say 3 to 4 months. Because I don't know if you remember, Corey, you gave me your book in July and then said, this is what I have. And then you came back in August with some revisions. So do know that it's possible. And her book was published in hand, physical copy, by October. Am I telling you to follow that same timeline? Absolutely not. It took me personally 6 months to write my book. See, I was still a classroom teacher. I had a toddler daughter. I am a wife. I still had a lot of stuff going on. So Kia couldn't push pause. I couldn't say, and that's what my family calls me, y'all, Kia. I couldn't push pause and say, okay, let me write my book. I had to incorporate that in my day-to-day life. What I decided to do was every time I went to go get my hair done, which was on a weekly basis at the time, I would take my book with me and I would write. Whenever I had my planning periods, I didn't have professional development on those days, I would lock myself in my classroom and I would write. So I was very intentional about finishing my book. Even though I knew I could write, even though I knew that, this was something I could do, it took me 6 months to write it. But I didn't tell you it took me 6 months to publish it. So it took me a year. Realistically, it took me a year to get it right. I didn't rush the process. I trusted the process. There are people that come to me who want they already have their achievement date in mind, their deadline. I want my book done by, let's say, May. And they're coming to me now. Now, guess what? It's possible, but is it going to be right? Have you read through your book? When I start going through the editing process and reading and realizing like, wait a minute, that's not realistic because your book doesn't make sense. It's not concise. There's no beginning, middle, and end. This sentence right here, I don't understand what you're saying. See, those things have to be caught, and it takes time. I don't know how many times I edited Work 101. I don't know how many times I've edited any other book, but there's multiple rounds of editing that has to take place. So that's being realistic. So I think you have to understand, when you understand why you want to do it, and you start to trust the process, you will allow God to let this book develop in its time, and you won't rush the process. If you rush it, you're not going to be happy with the results, and you're going to be wanting to do it over.
And we are trying to help you work smarter and not harder in 2018. So our goal is no do-overs. I know that y'all have seen those books that you pick them up and you're like, okay, is this a book? Is this a pamphlet? Is this a guide? Is this a handbook? What is? And then you flip through it and you're like, okay, nobody edited this. What is going on? We don't want that to be you in 2018. You have access to way too much information for us to be releasing and publishing things that we just can't be proud of. And so your book isn't going to write itself, but it's also not going to sell itself. And so I want to talk a little bit about how you can actually get paid after you publish. Now, in order for you to actually secure the bag, you have to treat your book like a business. Like LB said, the writing part is the creative part. That is the part that most of us can do with ease, right? But when it comes to how we're actually going to sell the book, that's where we sometimes get a little stuck. That's where we are intimidated, because all of us have this mindset of, I don't want to sell anything. I don't want to have to sell anything to anybody. And I am here to tell you that unless you sell something, you're going to be sold to. Somebody's always selling something. You're either selling or you're being sold to at all times, right? And so it's so important, if you are going to create another stream of income, if this book is going to be a passport to the life that you deserve to live, then you are going to have to, number one, start taking yourself seriously. And number two, start treating your book like a business. And if you are an aspiring author, meaning you have not released your book yet, or even if you're, in the publishing process now, this is the perfect time to start planning ahead. This is the perfect time to start thinking about these things that we're talking about tonight. So shout out to you if you are getting this information early so that you can, work smarter and not harder. Now, I had this woman come up to me at Workplace Slay last year, and she was so excited after the BYOB conference. She was super excited, feeling inspired, wanting to write her book. And after she told me about this book that she wanted to write, how, God had given her this idea and how she was determined and it was going to get done. At the end of the conversation, she says, but I don't want to be on social media. But I don't want to start right. I don't want to, have to build a following. I don't want to have to be posting all day. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, boo. I hate to break it to you, but writing a book and selling the book are two different things. And you have to be willing to put effort into both if this is going to be successful for you. Any of us, anybody within the sound of my voice can write and release a book. But it is truly up to you, up to the action that you put behind it, up to, the intention that you put behind it, where this book is going to take you. Because the same places my book took me didn't take everybody else there with their book. And the other places that some people's books have taken them, my book hasn't taken me there yet. But it's created the platform to open me up to the opportunities. So many opportunities that I could not have even dreamed of have come from writing this book. Like LB said, we would not even know each other if she hadn't sent me a copy of her first book. All right. And so in order to secure the bag, you definitely have to start thinking of your book as a business. And the way that you do that is, number one, to start taking yourself seriously. Stop thinking that you are just releasing a book and start thinking about how you are creating another stream of income, how you are literally building a business. This book is the platform for you to base a business off of, whether it's a merchandise business that, has complimentary merchandise that relates to the book. Maybe you got some quotes out of the book on some t-shirts or on some notebooks. Maybe this book is a fundraiser for your nonprofit that you're creating. If you work smarter and not harder, and if you really truly start taking yourself seriously, then you will be able to monetize this book and build a business based off of it. Now, business ownership is not for everybody. Entrepreneurship isn't for everybody, but multiple streams of income is, and your book is a really, really good stream of income because there are a million other streams that can come from this one stream. And so in order to turn your book into a business, in order to start treating your book like a business, one thing that you definitely have to do is consider your operating costs. LB is definitely somebody who can help you to figure out how much money you need to budget in order to actually finish this book, and finish this book in a professional way that you can actually be proud of. I'm not talking about hiring like an editor off of Fiverr. Okay, I'm talking about hiring somebody credible, hiring somebody that's not going to have you out here embarrassed. Okay, and so there are some operating costs that are going to have to go into this book. There are some things that you're going to have to invest in. And so you're definitely going to have to create an investor's mindset in order to secure the bag. You're going to have to know your ideal client, your ideal reader. Who are you writing this book for? Because it ain't for everybody, right? Everything is not for everybody. And so you have to be very specific so that you can be very intentional. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you have some marketing strategies in mind, because your book is not going to write itself. It's also not going to sell itself. And so you have to start thinking like a business owner as you are writing your book, if you actually want to get paid after you publish. All right. So tip number 5, you got to give the people what they want. And in order for you to figure out what people want, there's a couple of easy ways that you can do it. One of the easiest ways, and a free way to figure out what people actually want, what they're going to read about, how you can actually choose a topic that people will actually be interested in and want to learn about and want to pay for, is just by simply polling your people. So even if you're like, okay, Coriel, I don't have 10,000 followers, I don't have an email list, you got some friends on Facebook, right? You got some homegirls in a group chat in your phone. You have a focused group of people somewhere that you can send a quick text message survey to, or that you can send a quick 3-question survey to, and ask them, what do they want to know about? What do they want to learn from you? Because they might want to know about fashion, but they might not want to know about fashion from you. So you need to find out from the people who know you, or the people who are a part of your audience, find out what they want from you, and then give them that. I wasted a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a whole lot of money trying to give people what I thought they wanted or what I thought they needed instead of just giving them what they wanted. And so in order to save yourself some time, in order to finish your book without getting so freaking frustrated, give the people what they want. You can find out what they want by simply asking. Another way to make sure that you are actually choosing a topic that people are going to be interested in, a profitable topic, is by doing your research. See what's popping. You can research hashtags. You can research blog topics. You can look at magazines. You can look at so many different things for inspiration to know what is a popular topic, what is a popular issue that people care about right now, what is a cause that you can tie this book to. You definitely have to make sure that you are writing about relevant topics, catchy topics, things that people are actually interested in. And another tip that you can use is Amazon. Amazon is your best friend when you are in the writing process, when you are in the brainstorming process, I should say, when you are in the creative process where you're just trying to figure out what you want to write about and who you want to be as an author. Go check out some of your favorite authors. Go check out some of the books that you think would be related to the book that you're thinking about writing and see what the people are saying about those books. See what, the reviews are saying about those books. See what those authors did right. See what the people are saying those authors did wrong. Where do they have room for improvement? What are some of the topics people are saying they wish they would have covered or they wish they would have talked about? All right. All you got to do is get a little bit more creative. You just got to think outside the box, but you definitely want to make sure that you are actually writing about topics that people want to know about. You also want to consider collaborating. What is that quote? You can, if you want to go fast, you can go alone. But if you want to go far, you got to go with other people. It's something like that. That's loosely how that quote goes. But the premise is, if you really, truly want to get to where you say you want to get to, you can get there so much quicker. You can get there with less stress, right? Have a more effortless journey just by having partners in the process. And so even if you don't have necessarily, quote unquote, a dream team, there are people in your life, there are people in your circle, there are people in your network that you can actually, I don't want to say use, but that you can actually leverage to help you in publishing and in promoting your book. So I've seen authors co-author books where they partner with somebody who may have a different expertise, a similar, the same topic, but a different level of expertise or a different niche market, right? And so they come together, they collaborate on this book, and then they share the promotion responsibilities. They share the publishing costs. Okay, because two heads are better than one. So you can partner with somebody to co-author a book. You can use partners for affiliates, so they can help you make sales. You can use partners for promotion, so they can help you get the word out about your book. You can use partners for media. You can use partners for guest author opportunities. There are 1,000,001 ways that you can actually leverage the strengths, the connections, and the audience of other people just by simply collaborating. So if you want to write on a topic that you think someone else can also add value on, reach out to them and find out if they're interested. I guarantee you, if somebody reaches out to me right now and asks me, am I interested in co-authoring a book, that's going to take me half the time, half the energy, it's going to cost me half the money, and I actually believe it's something that could benefit me and my brand and my business and my audience, why would I say no? People are always looking for another stream of income. And so as long as it's a partnership that makes sense, collaborating is definitely a great way to not only finish your book, but actually market your book. And then, of course, you want to make sure you are actually building while you write. So in order to make sure that you are not going to spend all this money and invest all this money in this book, and then have 1,000 books sitting in your garage, in order to make sure that's not you, because by that point, you're stressed out, you're mad, you are like frustrated, you begging people to buy this book because you're trying to make your money back by that point. And so we want to make sure that you are building your audience while you are writing your book, so that you can build awareness, so that you already have a built-in audience of people who are interested in your topic, who support, your journey, who are a part of the process, and who are eager and excited to read this book once it's done. So you can definitely start your community based on your topic, based on your cause, based on your expertise or your industry. And then you want to let them in on the process. When people feel like they've been along for the ride, they are literally excited by the time you get to the end of the process. They are excited to see the finished product. If you are bringing them in on the process, showing them the different book covers that you're deciding between, taking them through the editing process, sharing little pieces of the story, giving them little chapter previews, right? If you are giving them those little sneak peeks, when it's time for the big reveal, they're literally going to have their wallet out. They're literally going to be sitting there waiting to spend their money and get a copy of your book. And so you definitely want to make sure you are building while you write. So you can build while you write by creating Facebook groups. Live broadcasts are a really great way to create that connection with your audience and bring them in on the process. Writing blogs are a really great way. Video blogs are a really great way. Social media campaigns can be created to build awareness, but you definitely don't want to wait until, your book is coming out next week and now you want to start telling people about it. By then it's too late, which brings me to my last tip, tip number 8. Treat your book like a movie. Very, very simple tip. And I love sharing it because it usually is like an aha moment for someone. So whenever a new movie is coming out, we don't not see the movie. We don't hear about the movie. We don't not hear about the movie until it's about to come out. Like, we start hearing about the movies that are coming out for Christmas in like July. If we go to the movies right now in February, they're going to be playing previews for the 4th of July, for August, right? And so they are literally building up the excitement. They are building the buzz. They are creating that anticipation. They are doing all of these smaller promotional, opportunities leading up to the big reveal. And so it's very, very important that you don't just think like an author, but think like you are releasing a movie. What are some of the things that people are going to get out of this book? How can you pull out some of the topics? How can you pull out some of the pieces? How can you pull out some of the chapters to show people what they are going to gain from reading this book? And so if you treat your book like a movie and you really start promoting it way in advance, and you bring people into the process, you bring people into the journey with you, they are literally going to be standing there with their wallet out, waiting for the release of the book. All right. So LB, I'm about to turn it back over to you. I see some people have some questions. We're going to take questions in just a moment. So if you have one, don't worry, you'll definitely be able to ask it. There you are, LB.
All right. Hey, I was in the chat room chatting with everybody, just making sure that everybody was good. And so a lot of information is being shared tonight. Wonderful way of creating that marketing strategy, Corey. Thank you so much for sharing. So how to write, publish, and market your book, right? So I'm just going to touch really quickly, Corey, on the whole publishing process. Is that good?
That's good.
Yeah, man. I want to talk a little bit because once you're done, once you've made the decision that, hey, I'm going to write this book, I've taken all of these tips, I'm in my groove, I've written my final draft, and I'm ready to send it to the editor. I'm ready to get it published. Let me just stop you really, really quickly, because most of the time I receive a lot of raw manuscripts. They're rough, really rough. And these people are ready, these authors are ready to, get their books edited, ready to go through the publishing process. But let me just say that it's important that you self-edit. many times, I mean, a lot of people say I'm not a good writer, I don't write well, but if you really read your book out loud and see what you are expecting somebody else to read and enjoy, you will find a lot of your errors without even having to hire me initially. I'm not saying don't hire me. You do need to hire an editor. If not me, definitely a professional editor who has worked in your niche, I'll say that, or your genre of writing. My specialty is nonfiction, memoirs, self-help books. If you come to me with a fiction, I'm going to refer you to some of my amazing colleagues in the field. Okay, so just know that you can self-edit before you move on to the publishing process and before you actually start editing your book. Simply do that by reading it out loud. And that's one of the things I say in my manuscript reviews that I offer every Monday. If you read this out loud, and you'll catch many of your mistakes. So that's first and foremost. But after you have gone through the editing process, which is a process, you finish writing it, and I know you're excited, and you think your book is really, really good, but what if it isn't? And that's where we come in with the whole editing, going through and making sure that you know whether your book is ready for publishing. Like I say, I like to edit and make sure that it's meeting publishing standards, making sure that it's an easy read. But making a book an easy read is damn hard writing. I'll just say that. But working with your editor is definitely a partnership. But once you get through the editing process, you have to decide which route you're going to take as far as publishing is concerned. There are two routes. You have your self-publishing route. You have your traditional route. I strongly encourage you to go back to why you're doing this, because when you define why, this will help you to decide whether or not you want to choose traditional or self-publishing. In a nutshell, traditional takes a lot longer than self-publishing does. Most people who wait out for the traditional route of publishing, they do so because they want to land a major publishing deal with one of the major publishers. And let me just say this, everything that glitters is not gold. I want you to look at publishing like a record label. Look at it as the music industry. Most of the time we're waiting for this, we're the artists, and we're waiting for somebody to see our talent and to validate who we are and to say, you know what, you're good enough. Here is an advance check that you want to pay back. Here's an advance check, and I want you to go out there and promote your book. I didn't stutter when I said that, and I didn't make a mistake. Even as a author that has a traditional contract or with a traditional publisher, you still are responsible for promoting your book. So everything that Coriel is teaching you, everything that I'm sharing with you are things that you're going to have to do on your own anyway. So why not reap the full benefits? Why not get 100% of your royalties? Hello, by self-publishing. There are so many different self-publishers out there. Create Space is one, Lulu is one. There are so many others, Tate Publishing. And so it's important that you really know what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Do I want to have my books available through distribution? These are some questions you need to ask yourself. Is it all what you think it's up to be? A lot of people just say, hey, my book, for me, let me use me. I had my book published. It was available on Amazon. It was available on Barnes & Noble. That was one of the most proudest moments in my career, I guess, as an author, me just being a self-published author. But then when I got into the business of it, remember, I had no idea that, I was looking at publishing a book to be an expert on a topic or to create opportunities, or didn't know it would do that, right? When I started realizing, the business behind Amazon and the business behind Barnes & Noble, and I'm not saying this to deter you from having your books on those platforms, but you got to understand that there is royalties that have to be paid, and they receive some of it, if not a large portion of it. A $15 book that's on distribution channels, you may be bringing home about $3 per book. Yeah. So you have to really go back to your why. I knew it was important for me when I published my book to make the money that I invested, keyword, the money that I invested, I needed to make that money back. So that's how I looked at when I spent money on my book cover, when I spent money on my interior design, when I spent money, invested money on my interior design and on editing. Those are funds or finances that I needed to get back. So it's important, again, that you really think about what is it that I want this book to do. Some of you all may just want to print your book and sell it on your website. Because again, going back to the business side of it, you get 100% of your royalties minus the printing costs. Okay. So it's important that you all really get clear on publishing. You know, I always refer a lot of people to CreateSpace as a great platform to use as an affordable platform to use. One is because there's a lot of freebies that come with that. ISBN is free. There's no title set up and all these other different perks, but also you get the distribution through Amazon. So you want to really think about, again, is that important to me? For me personally, I had my books on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, but guess what? After I understood the business behind it, I pulled my books off until I developed a plan, a marketing plan that was going to drive hundreds, if not thousands of people to that actual website, Amazon, to purchase that book. Then for me, getting my books sold on my website is more beneficial. For me, it's more profitable. And that was me understanding how to create an additional stream of income. So publishing, again, you have to decide which route is best for you. Traditional publishing it takes a lot longer, but you got to also look at it as you are the artist, and they can pretty much change your book cover. They can change your story. They can pretty much manipulate anything because it's theirs, and you're basically getting royalties off of what they decide to do with your story. Or if you're like myself, if you're like Corey, who had a story that I didn't want them to change my story. I didn't want somebody to tell me my story wasn't good enough. So I decided to self-publish so I can have total control on how well my book did or how well it didn't do, because I was in control of it. So hopefully this has given you a little overview of publishing and how to look at publishing, and even some of the questions you should ask when you decide which route is best for you. All right, so hopefully, and I've been talking, Corey, are we going to take questions before?
You want to?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take some questions now, because I was peeking in as you were presenting. I was kind of peeking through the chat room just to see what the questions were. And I think I saw somebody ask a question about an ebook. And honestly, the same process that you would take to create a paperback or hardback book is the same process you'll take with an ebook, but it's actually much faster. In fact, Corey, I think you have something like a downloadable, something that you offer that helps people to write a ebook in 24 hours?
24 hours or less. Yep.
So it's definitely, that's one of the quicker ways. And one thing I'll say about an ebook, when it comes to pricing it, just be very careful and be very mindful that most ebooks that sell successfully are between $2.99 and maybe $5 or $6.99. Now, I'm not telling you how to price your book, but just be mindful of that. I decided to upload my book. You know, I'm like, hey, you know, this is a great book. It has great information in it. The tiara, I'm going to show you how to be a wife. And I put it up there for $9.99. Now, the sales were okay. But what I noticed was that a lot of people, the feedback that I was getting was, wait a minute, okay, I can download this on my ebook. This book right here, this best-selling book by Lala is only $3.99. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of research I had to do. And once I dropped my price to $2.99, my sales took off. So just keep that in mind with actually pricing an ebook. Make sure it's not too much or too high, because if not, it'll cut into your possibility to sell.
But the good thing too about ebooks, it all goes back to your why. Because when I wrote my ebook, 25 Ways to Build Your Business Fast, I think I was only selling it for $5. And people will see that and be like, well, $5, that ain't no money. But that was specifically an ebook that was a fundraiser for my vacation. So that was like my travel fund. So I made enough on this $5 ebook each month to buy a flight. So even though I wasn't making, $10,000 selling this ebook a month, I was making enough to do something with, because I was being intentional. So you just got to make sure you have very specific goals.
Absolutely. And with ebooks, you can always use that as an upsell for a lot of stuff. People can sign up for your email list. They can download your ebook for free. It just goes back to the intention you're setting for it. All right. So hopefully that has helped you. Somebody asked the question about why, Lakia, explain why you pulled your book from Amazon. Absolutely. I pulled my book from Amazon because I decided that I want to make money from my book, and not just a couple of dollars, but the majority majority or the profit the most I can from my actual book. With Amazon or any distribution, there is a wholesaler discount that you already give them, which is about 55%, which means they're buying your book for 55% of its cost. So let's just say if your book is $15, they're getting your book for under $7, right? Then you have to pay for the printing cost, which is normally, depending on how many pages your book is, that's another $3. So I'm already cutting my profit more than half. So when I would get my royalty checks, yeah, my book may have been selling, but when I got my royalty checks, I was very disappointed. I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. My book is not doing that well on Amazon because, one, I don't have a marketing strategy that's going to help my book to sell the way it's supposed to, not until I met Coriel, right? And so I made an executive decision to remove it from Amazon and to drive more of my followers, more of the people who are wanting to learn more about me to my website. I have seen at least a 70% increase in sales just because of that one move. When it comes to Amazon, you just got to be very strategic. I'm not telling you to pull your book, but just know that the royalties that you're going to get are not going to be as much as you think. And so instead of getting pennies, I'm getting quarters. Let's just put it like that. So I get all of my royalties. I'm simply just paying my printing costs.
And you know what else? I have to say this. When I first released Work 101, and I know I told you this, LB, when I saw how much Amazon was taking from me, I felt like I was like a rapper that just got a bad record deal. Like, I felt like I'm an artist and they stealing my shit. Like I'm doing all the work out here, but Amazon is raping me. And so it literally comes down to you wanting to protect your investment. If you, want to actually profit, you're going to have to make sure you have that website, which again, you don't just want to write a book. You want to make sure you have the platform to be able to sell the book from. And then you also want to, be able to have that, to have your freedom in your pricing. Because I know Amazon, their percentages and all that stuff, it makes a difference with how much you actually get. And then I don't want to say that Amazon, you don't want your book on Amazon, because obviously both of our books are still on Amazon, because Amazon has an amazing search engine. People are searching for Amazon things for Amazon all day long. And so, they relate your books to other people. So when somebody is searching for Girl Boss, Work 101 pops up, right? And so it's important for you to, still have it up there so that you can take advantage of that. You just don't want to rely on that.
Beautiful. What's another question you want to answer, Corey?
Let's see.
There's so many.
When you get stuck, this one's for you, Abby. When you get stuck or have writer's block, what do you do for inspiration?
Beautiful. Okay, so this is going to vary per person. For me personally, I read to write. Write that down. I read to write. I always share this story because it's so profound. I was reading one of my favorite books, The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. If you haven't read it, please read it. But there's a section in the book where he's sharing the story about this woman and her husband and her child, and how they recorded her in the morning, just kind of like barking at them, how she was always yelling at them or being very negative. And then they played the tape back, and it made her, cry. It really just hurt her heart that she was actually communicating with her husband and her son that way. And as I was reading that, this is during writer's block, as I was reading that, I got the idea to tame your tongue. Tame Your Tongue came from me reading something about the power of positive thinking, right? So I got the idea to start realizing, like, as wives, we have power in our mouths, and we got to be able to tame our tongue in order to speak life into our husbands. So that was my inspiration. My inspiration came from me reading something totally different. Notice I didn't go to another relationship book. I didn't go to something that was similar to what I was writing, because I don't want to steal anybody's ideas. So I was inspired by something totally different in order to get me to start writing. Another thing is to work out. I run in the morning. It's me and the pavement. Me and the pavement in the morning. I promise you I get the clearest mindset. So I was able to come home after a run and just start writing because my mind was clear. I was focused and those ideas started flowing. So you got to find what inspires you to get those creative juices flowing again.
All right, LB.
All
You
right.
ready for the,
All
you
right.
ready?
Absolutely. So hopefully tonight has been extremely helpful and you are even more inspired, even more encouraged to get your book done. But see, Corey and I have come together. We've taken it. I don't know what took us so long to do this, Corey, but we have finally merged or married two of our expertise, publish and profit. We are offering for everybody who is ready to get their book done. You've decided, you know what, my book isn't going to write itself. My book isn't going to sell itself. So LB, KD, I need you to help me publish and profit. We are offering a 60-day masterclass for all of you tonight. Let me tell you something about this masterclass. You can literally have your book done by May. Like in 60 days, this program is going to include 3 modules. You're getting audio, video lessons, and downloadable resources. These 3 modules, we're going to teach you how to, 1, create killer content. Let me tell you something. Like Corey said, you got to really understand why you're writing what you're writing, right? When it comes to choosing a topic, some people want to write about their dog. Okay, well, how is that going to help somebody else in their life? You know what I mean? Helping them to choose a topic that's going to be sellable, right? Picking the title, developing, that engaging storyline. Mastermind Mondays help me to, Manuscript Review Mondays help me to review content, to tell people, you know what, this is where you're going. This storyline is not as engaging. This is what you need to add. We're going to add that in these modules. Module number 2, we're delving deeper into the publishing process. I'm going to show you how to fast track the process. I'm going to show you how to get that book finished, and I'm going to show you how to, from uploading your book to picking the right printer, to what to look for, the questions to ask. Are you using the right paper? Are you using the right, should you publish paperback or hard book? We're going to go into details in the publishing process. And then, of course, module 3, we're going to show you the magic of marketing. After you've done the work and you've written the book, then you got to have a marketing plan. So we're going to show you how to market your book. All of the students who are ready to take advantage of this Publish and Profit 60-day masterclass, really, you're just showing yourself how to turn your book into a business. You can do all of that for, you know what, it's worth $9.97. Did you hear that? It's worth $9.97. But of course, Corey and I, we always balling on the budget. We're going to offer this to you for $4.97. And as Corey always say, and right, if you pay in full, you get to take advantage of a complimentary 45-minute discovery and strategy session with myself and Coriel if you pay in full tonight. So we're going to help you to create the strategy and the marketing plan for your book so that it can be successful. Okay. Again, $4.97 is the price. You can pay in full, or you can even pay half. If you want to pay a deposit tonight, you know what, LB, I don't have all of it, but I can secure my place. I am making the investment. Remember that word. I need y'all to understand an investment. Whenever you make an investment, you're expecting a return. So look at it as an investment, all right? Get very clear about this investment. Pay half so you can secure your spot. And if you actually register before the 15th, guess what we're going to do for you? We're going to invite you to our Atlanta Authors Mastermind. Me and Corey, right? Just in person, one-on-one with me and Corey, showing you how to make that book successful, walking you through whatever steps you need to finish, answering whatever questions you may have about the process, how to be successful, how to go on a book tour, whatever it is that you truly need to know. We're going to be able to answer those questions during that mastermind. So $4.97 is the price for this 60-day mastermind. How many of y'all want to have y'all book done in 60 days? I think I saw in the chat room some folks are ready. They're almost finished. They got writer's block. How about you need to get past that writer's block? How about we can push you and give you the inspiration you need so that you can get this book done? $4.97 is the price. Pay in full tonight. Take advantage of that mastermind, that 45-minute discovery strategy session with me and Corey, or pay half and definitely get in before the 15th so that you can be a part of our Atlanta Authors Mastermind group.
I hope that you all have enjoyed this. I definitely, as always, enjoy being able to share what I've learned to help the next sister get her book done without being so stressed out and struggling. So if you have any questions about the actual 60-day Publish and Profits program, how to turn your book into a business, you can actually log on to thebookbusiness.com We made it super easy, thebookbusiness.com. And all of the dates and deadlines are on there. The official start date is March 5th. So definitely log on if you have any questions about what's included. Thebookbusiness.com is where you can catch that information. LB and I have some amazing, amazing resources, like we said, coming all 2018. So make sure you are following us on Instagram at Publish and Profits. LB, you got anything else?
No, I just want to say, you know what? I'm excited. I want you all to really get excited about seeing this book be an idea and actually manifesting in your hand. Your book is the passport to the life you want to live. I can't stress that enough. If you're ready to stop sitting down and letting year by year pass, let's get this book done. Sign up for this Publish and Profit 60-day masterclass. We're going to show you how to get your book done, how to market it, and how to be successful in the process.
I hope that you ladies are feeling inspired, empowered, and encouraged to not only publish, but also get paid. I love y'all. Good night.